Welcome to another episode of the More People podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Fitzmaurice, CEO at MorePeople. My guest today is our very own Managing Director, Richard Hanwell. Thanks for joining us, Richard.
Thank you for having me.
So lots of things we can talk about today. I've written some questions down so we don't fall into the trap of ranting and raving, as we could be prone to doing.
On occasion.
So I'll start with the questions. So first of all, can you share a bit about your recruitment background, your journey, what drew you into the industry in the first place?
I think from myself, I kind of fell into the industry like a lot of people do, albeit nearly 20 years ago. I think, ironically, I was looking for a job with less hours at the time, but disillusioned with my own career at the time. Managed to find a role that could draw on my extroversion, my desire to deal with people day in, day out, and a role that offered me the ability to earn more money. I didn't go to uni, I didn't have a degree. I needed to pull on the experiences and the kind of skills I possessed. Found an organisation, joined at the time with a couple of like-minded individuals that hard work pays off. Enjoyed it. Kind of got into the industry from the food industry as well as the recruitment industry. And what I thought was going to be a bit of a stopgap turned into the next 18 years, 19 years of my life that I thoroughly enjoyed. Got into management roles, got into more senior roles, took some time abroad to work in recruitment and realised it's universal in whatever industry or country you happen to be in. It's still people, it's still chatting, it's still the more you put in, the more you get out. Before obviously coming back to the UK and eventually joining MorePeople 3 years ago.
You say quite often that you can't believe that people pay you to talk to people for a living.
Yeah, I think I talk more than most, as we all know, but I still can't believe that curious nature of just chatting to people and being interested and understanding what makes people tick. There's a £40 billion industry in the UK alone that pays for recruitment. And I think that stat is mind-blowing, to be perfectly frank, when you can enter into the industry without specific degrees, qualifications, experience.
So over the course of your recruitment career, what are some of the most significant changes that you have seen?
I think if you go back to my early years, and I was quite lucky in the way in which the market was booming to a certain degree when I kind of came into it and build big fast, to be frank. If somebody had turned around to me at that stage and said, someone's going to develop a database that's got every professional in the world on it, everyone's contact details, everyone's photo, it's free, your clients have got it, I'd have been quite scared. I think I'd have thought about leaving the industry, yet LinkedIn came along and it's very much a plus for me as it is a negative in the way in which, yes, clients can go out there and utilise it themselves, but that wasn't scary. And that was a huge change. I think it's very much a candidates market nowadays and has been for quite a large period of time. And I don't think that's about to change. I think that the power shift is with the talent, especially in the world that we recruit into. There's a huge talent shortage. So back in the day when candidates were going in and being grilled, the first stage interview is a seduction piece to get the candidate interested in the company, in the manager, in the role, before you start to put them under too much pressure. But I think that power shift is absolutely massive. LinkedIn being there, job boards changing, the way in which they operate. Who knows what AI is going to bring, right?
Well, that was about to be my next question. Do you think history might repeat itself? Are we in a similar scenario now where the next big thing that is there for recruiters to fear is AI?
I don't think fear. I think AI is going to play a part in a positive way, without a shadow of a doubt. And if it can add to the process, much like psychometric tests have, or more structure, then great. I don't fear it. I've worked through recessions. I've worked through the coming of age of LinkedIn and LinkedIn getting better and LinkedIn Recruiter, et cetera. But I don't fear it. I think you're not going to beat agency recruiters who are motivated by career pathways, bonuses, etc. I think the power of being able to go and have a drink, have a breakfast, have a coffee, have a Teams chat with talent that is the passive audience. I don't think AI can beat that. I think it will be able to add to it in some way, shape or form, without a shadow of a doubt.
So a bit like robotics and automation, automate the boring bits, the mundane bits, and leave the value add elsewhere in the process.
To a degree, but again, that seduction piece has got to be done by humans at the start. But like psychometric tests, if it comes in at some stage in the process, if you've got a top performer profile for your business, for your industry, for your job role, and you can replicate that, then great. Agency recruiters being out there with the level of determination that they should have can't be beaten.
So you've touched upon it there, and it segues nicely on to one of my next questions. We do a lot of internal interviewing, a lot of internal recruitment. One of our big challenges at the moment is how we grow this business and attract talent to more people, as well as recruiting on behalf of our clients, obviously. In your opinion, what are the essential skills and qualities that good recruiters need to possess in order to be successful in this work?
I think you've got to want to understand the metrics. You've got to understand the motivations behind people. What makes them tick? Why do they do what they do? How have they become successful? How have they learnt from mistakes? The resilience and determination is of paramount importance, because you're going to get hit, a lot, to be perfectly frank. But there's something in you as a recruiter, as a successful recruiter, that picks you back up time after time after time, like a professional sports person should and could and would. So I think that definitely helps. And I think you've got to want to have a career that will change. That you've got to be comfortable with the repetition of the job role, but have a desire to make sure that there are changes in there. So when you first start out, you're very much office based, and then you're starting to get out and about and meeting clients. Then you start to get to management roles, and you start to get to our level where you're podcasting, or you're hosting dinners, hosting debates, or you're down at the Guildhall at the City Food Drink Lecture with Princess Anne, and all these various different things. But one of the big things I'm looking for more recently in interviews is people's desire, ability to put themselves outside their comfort zones and learn from it and get excited by it. Because I think that is a really big thing. You start, when I look at the job role, what it was nearly 20 years ago to what it is now, and what we expect of some of the newer members of staff coming through, it's totally different. And it does require people dealing with uncomfortable situations which they know will better them. But they've got to have a desire to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, that piece around curiosity, over a 20-year career where the world has evolved a lot, our teachers when we were at school would say, you need to know this maths because you won't always have a calculator in your pocket. And now you do.
Yeah.
Or back in the days of an encyclopedia, you won't always have this. And now you do.
Yeah.
Does curiosity as a trait become less common? Is it more challenging now to find people with the curiosity when you've got most of these facts at your fingertips?
Yeah, definitely. I think it doesn't come as naturally to a wider group of people, but I think it's quite interesting to sit down with, whether it be business owners, CEOs, MDs, and understand why. Why did they take those risks? Why did they put the family home at risk in a bid to get this better life? Or whether at a much more junior level, why did that QA supervisor jump from produce to manufacturing? What was important to them to do that? Why did they come from one industry to another, from one country to another? One thing reading it and then assuming, there's another thing really delving into, what did that feel like? Why did you do that? What impact did that have? What was going through your head? To really understand what drives people is semi-natural, but the minute you start to get it, the minute you start to ask those questions and you benefit from it, it should be something you want to do time and time again, right? You don't go to the gym, you start going to the gym, you realize it benefits you, you want to go more, you want to work out. You didn't have that time before, but you're doing it more now.
We've talked about it before. We're exactly the sort of people that if we're watching a TV show and there's a phrase or a reference or a word we don't understand, it's a pause and the race to Google it to seek to understand what you've missed. So you can then be more enlightened and put that into tomorrow's conversation. Not everybody does that though, do they?
No, I think a lot goes over people's heads down. It's a case of, I don't know that, so I don't need to know it. It's a sweeping generalisation, but I see it more and more. fear of embarrassment for me, to be frank. When I was younger, I think playing for sports clubs and having a big family meant I spent a lot of time with older individuals, and the age-old thing of, if you're the cleverest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I'm rarely in the wrong room, so for many reasons. But it is a case of not wanting to embarrass myself or wanting to add value, or not say something and go, damn, that was wrong. I've got the wrong meaning behind that.
So how do you stay up to date with latest recruitment trends, changes in technology? How do you go about finding out what you don't know and what's coming next?
Various points of contact with a fantastic non-exec director who will often share his wisdom of his other organisations. In fact, we have two. There's two of those guys that help us out massively. Follow the right threads online and read the right accounts and stay ahead of it. I hate the thought process that competition had got something that we hadn't that was really good, but balancing the act and not signing up to everything. But keep your ear close to the ground. Make sure you're speaking to the right people. I speak to a lot of other recruitment leaders. I speak to a lot of talent acquisition people. Attend a lot of networking events. Read a heck of a lot about the recruitment industry. Big speakers the likes of Greg Savage, etc. There's a lot of good tools out there, but there's a lot of good tools out there that make you lazy, and then you stop using that muscle group. We had it recently where one of our trainers brought in an old phone with the dial. It's like, the phone's still your biggest friend, right? It's still the best resource, as well as getting out there as much as you possibly can. But I think there will always be more technology, and we should always embrace it, and we should always look to how we can make processes slicker, smoother, etc. But you've got to pick the good ones, and you've got to pick the ones that are relevant for your industry that you recruit into, for your talent that you're looking to seduce and recruit. And you've got to you have to take some of these phone calls and take some of these demos and work out what's what.
I know you enjoyed enormously Princess Anne's closing remark
a
week or two ago, that if you're not networking, you're not working.
Yeah, it was a mic drop moment from Her Royal Highness, but I thought it was brilliant. I think it is. People network all the time without doing it. You go down to the pub, you meet someone totally different. The second question you normally ask is what they do for a living. Or it might be a case of how are they, or how do they know the person that's just introed you. But throughout the course of that initial few minutes conversation, you're asking them what they do for a living, because that's what people talk about. It happens all the time, but whether it be on the side of a rugby pitch, netball pitch, football pitch, whichever sports one of my children are playing at the weekend, I normally enter into a conversation about work, which could be the industry we recruit into. It could be me trying to get some intel from another business owner and what have you.
One final question we're asking all of our guests. If you had a time machine and you could travel back in time to when you were 24, what advice would you give to 24-year-old Rich? What do you wish you knew then that you know now?
Push myself outside my comfort zones at an earlier age. Get more comfortable with the uncomfortable, I think, and take more calculated risks, which in essence is doing the same thing. But I think really is pushing yourself outside your comfort zones. We all procrastinate about things we don't like to do, right? We were nervous about doing this, whether it's public speaking. Public speaking was a big one for me. Really was. The heart was pounding. I was sweaty. It was horrible. And every month I'll stand in front of X amount of CEOs and MDs and host a debate. Team meetings, the team's never been so big, or whether it be universities, that doesn't faze me anymore, but it fazed me for a large period of time. By one example, moving abroad was a big, massive thing for me. But I think taking those risks and constantly pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, whether it be professionally, in your personal life, sporting life, whatever, it always pays off. I mean, it's very similar to training and working out. You never regret working out. You never go and have a workout at the gym and regret it. And it's the same with pushing yourself outside your comfort zones, in my opinion.
Good advice. Thanks, Rich.
Cheers, mate.